Hello and welcome to Open Your Mind Radio. You have myself, Alan James.
Myself, Stephen George. Good evening.
Good evening. It's Sunday the 27th of October 2017, and I hope everybody was okay after Hurricane Ophelia last weekend. It looks like the west coast of Ireland got a bit of a beating, but we're not too bad. We're on the more like the east coast, and it wasn't too bad at all. There was a few power cuts, all right, and a few trees blown down, but nothing major. Anything down your side?
No, the bins didn't move, and nor did I think there's a kids' trampoline out the back, and normally things like that do tend to take off. But no, everything was a-okay.
Brilliant stuff. So thanks for the people who were inquiring if we were okay. We are fine, and hopefully that we don't have another one of them too soon. Because it was quite bad. There was a bit of damage done on the west coast of Ireland. Right, okay, on with the show. Right, on the show tonight we have two guests. Now, the first guest is a pre-record with Judge Naidu, and Judge Naidu is a judge that lives in China, and so the line that we had, the communication link that we had with him, wasn't that great, and so we had to do major editing on the actual, the audio file, the podcast. So bear with us on that one, but it's not bad. You know, you can have a listen, you can hear him, and it sounds good. So it should be okay. And we'll be playing that pre-record shortly. It's something that we did. We did the pre-record a couple of weeks ago, so it's still fresh. And the second guest we're going to have on after Judge Naidu is Brian McCarthy from the Anti-Eviction Taskforce. And we're going to be catching up with Brian on what's been going on from a legal point of view and things that have been going on in general regarding his team and what's been happening there. But before we crack on, let's find out what the communication channels are.
Okay, communication channels this evening are...
The communication channels are email info@oymireland.com, by phone 046 927 1212, and you can also contact us direct through the OYM chat room.
Thank you, Mary. Yes, the OYM chat room can be found on OYMradio.com. You will see the links there to the chat room and also to the anti-social media Facebook, to Twitter, to the email, and there's lots of great information on the website as well. All current and up to date for your listening or for your viewing pleasure. We also have lots of podcasts as well. If you've missed any podcasts, they are all on there for your pleasure. We also have the chat room on People's Internet Radio. We're going to monitor both of the chat rooms for questions, but it will be more so on the second half of the show, unless you need to ask a question that's kind of related to the podcast, because the first guest, as Alan mentioned, will be the judge, which is a pre-record. So, you know, you can ask us questions, but we will not be able to ask the judge. So there we go. We also have on the website as well the TuneIn Radio Link application. Now, that's a free app. It's a fantastic little app, actually. You can stick it on your mobile device, your smartphone, your iPhone, Google, Chrome, and all these fancy pieces of equipment, and you can check us out 24 hours a day. Email info@oymradio.com. As we do say and have said many times before, we do like to receive emails, even if it's a quick one-line email, just to say where you're listening from. If you're a first-time listener or a long-time listener, we don't mind. Just fire us over an email. And phone line 046 927 1212 or 00353 469 27 1212 if you're ringing from outside the Republic of Ireland.
Brilliant stuff. Thanks, Dave. Right,
all done in one breath.
Oh, very good, very good. Right, we have a few things to chat about, and Steve's going to kick us off.
Yeah, going to kick us off with Hurricane Ophelia. It hit Ireland last Monday. Luckily, we both live away from the West Coast. We're kind of more Midlands-ish. So we kind of, we weren't really affected too much. But the West Coast of Ireland really kind of took the brunt of the hurricane. On another note, who names the hurricanes? We'd love to know. Now, we never come across any women called Ophelia. Well, I've never
heard any. Yeah.
No, I've heard a song called Ophelia, but that's about it. We have. It says come across women called Orla, Olivia, Olga, and Oprah. So if you put PED at the start of Ophelia, you've been hard at work. You get PED, Ophelia. Who writes this nonsense? Anyway, any other plays on words with spells, maybe? Yeah, that's kind of interesting. If anyone else has any of those little kind of word plays on names, just fire them into us. We might even read it out, you never know.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, have you ever heard of a girl called Ophelia? Have you ever come across a girl called Ophelia? And the fact that if you put PED,
no.
paedophilia.
I've heard the name, but not. I think it's a very old-fashioned name, I think.
Okay, yeah. No worries. Okay, now, this is what I'm going to read out now. I came across during the week, and it's speculation only, and it's just for people to have a think about, and it's got to do with the Harvey Weinstein issue that has come up regarding Hollywood, and the theory. This theory was developed below of Harvey Weinstein's epic takedown is presented without hard evidence, so it's only speculation. This speculation is based on the fact that no one who possesses so much perceived power is ever publicly assassinated unless there is a specific reason, because we know the way the cabal work. It's a bit convenient that Harvey Weinstein has been kind of thrown to the dogs, and the issue is that he abused women and raped one or two. That's what the allegations are. But is there more to it? That's what we're asking. Is there something else behind it? So basically, the most pressing mission for Deep State is the removal of President Trump. Towards that end, Hollywood stars have been conscripted to play their essential parts. Each of them has seen their brands destroyed as they trash Trump. The motion picture industry has seen its stock decline like never before. Weinstein is a businessman at heart and does not want to see his company collapse. The numbers have not been looking good. Various events, as reported by the mainstream media, appear to indicate that he was going with the flow of the Purple Revolution. As a Hollywood enforcer, i.e. white-collar thug, Weinstein's first job was to corral the actors, producers and directors into the pen of strict compliance. When he chose not to follow through as he has always done, he became immensely vulnerable given his sordid past. Hence, the powers that be made a huge example of him. Now, that's speculation. Is it true? I don't know. But you don't get into high places unless you have some dirt that they can use against you. So he obviously had an interest in doing this with women, and he got to the higher echelons of the groups in Hollywood in the movie industry, and then obviously he maybe decided that enough is enough, but it backfired. Now I don't know, it has to be speculation, because if you decide to walk away from something, or you go against the powers that be and they have something on you, well, you know the story, you know what's going to happen. So did he think they were going to bluff, or did he think that they were going to do it? I don't know. As I say, it's only speculation, just an idea. Steve?
Yes, moving on, the Independent.ie have an article here said the RTE's Director General D. Forbes has argued for an increase in the TV licence fee, but is it what viewers want? We did touch on this a couple of weeks back. It says get rid of... They took to the streets actually with a questionnaire. Would you rather get rid of RTE channels or pay the TV licence fee? And get rid of RTE, it says, because to be honest with you, people can't afford a TV licence. There are people in a predicament where they can hardly afford to put food on their table, never mind worry about people knocking on their door looking for money for the TV licence, said Gardai Swan from East Wall. Miss D. Forbes told an Oireachtas committee uncertainty surrounding reform of the TV licence system is making it impossible for RTE to plan ahead for the next year. I mean, what are they going to do next? Have us have a licence for a fridge because there's a motor in it, added Siobhan from Dublin. And Dubliner Noel Burke said he was over the age where he had to pay for a TV licence, but defended RTE. Why get rid of it, he said. It's our station, and I'd miss the Angeles without it. Well, good man, Noel. I think the Angeles is still on the radio, on the wireless, Noel. So you wouldn't be really missing it. 92% agreed to lose RTE. What about alternative media channels? Why should RTE have the monopoly? And again, the licence fee, I think it's €168 allegedly. But they wanted to double it there. This woman thought it was absolutely fantastic value for money. Obviously, she must have seen the politicians getting their increase, and she fancied one as well. So she wanted to double that. But it's not going to happen anyway. Not as far as I'm concerned. And I think a lot of people are kind of the same mind that they would rather lose RTE than have to fork over double the 168. Of course, there are people who don't pay it, and they receive letters in the door every so often addressed to the occupier. One came in last week. It was labelled up and popped back in the post. As Harry says, reverse the headache. So yeah, we reversed the headache on that one. But I did see something during the week as well, and this came up before, but it is kind of against EU law. There is some European law that states that no company, and you can kind of horseshoe RTE in there, but it's saying no company should be able to have a monopoly and force people to pay for something like a subscription, even though it's not a subscription, but like a TV license, I suppose. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see where that goes. I'd say, well, it's not going to go up. They're not going to double it. They won't get away with that.
I haven't watched RTE since 2010, which is when they switched over from analog to digital.
You're missing the Angelus.
I'm missing the Angelus. And to be honest with you, 92% of people, when I went on the website and had a look at the independent.ie, I think it was Irish Times or independent.ie, and the majority of people on there all were slagged off RTE, Dublin 4 lovies, and just said, we don't want it, don't need it, it's a waste of time. Unbelievable how many people just don't want RTE because they say it's terrible.
Yeah. And if anyone's wondering, anyone who's not living in Ireland is wondering what the Angelus is, Angelus, I believe it's spelt, stick on YouTube and type in RTE or even just Ireland, the Angelus. I think it's 90 minutes of bongs. 90 seconds, sorry, a minute and a half of bongs.
God, we grew up with that as young lads.
You knew it was tea time when you heard the Angelus.
When you heard the bongs. It's Dublin 4 lovies on RTE. All disjointed and completely away from the system. Don't have a clue. The programming is terrible. They don't cater for what people want to hear, like the real information and not the fake stuff they talk about, or just silly things. I just don't, as I say, I haven't watched it from 2010. I don't miss it, don't need it, because I don't watch much TV anyway. And when I do, I watch programs that are of interest. Not the crap that would be on RTE anyway. But 92% of people is phenomenal.
It is.
Now,
there's a message for RTE.
My argument is that we should be more like America, where you have the cable, where you can have your own TV station and have competition.
Yeah.
Rather than be like RTE being the state broadcaster and just having the one station. Well, TV3 is there, but they're funded by advertising.
Well, you see, that's the thing that people may not be aware of. Over here they say it's the law, but it's not. It's an act, and it really doesn't carry any water anyway. But you're supposed to have a license for just to own a TV. Whether you watch it or not is irrelevant. Just to own and have a TV on your premises, they say you have to pay €168 for this license fee, which goes straight to the state broadcaster, which is RTE. There are other independent TV channels here in Ireland. As Alan said, TV3 is one of them. There's an Irish one, I think it's TG4. I'm not sure if they're independent, but I believe they are. But even the likes of TV3, they're funded purely by advertising, as is RTE. Like RTE, it's not like BBC where there are no adverts. There are adverts, so they're getting it's kind of having your cake and eating it, I suppose. They get the license fee plus they get the revenue from the adverts.
And people are beginning to realise that I don't want to watch it. Don't want to watch RTE. It's a waste of time. The subjects and the information you put out there is all propaganda anyway by the state. So why watch it? Anyway, how's your week?
Yeah, my week's been fine. Well, with the exception of Monday. With the storm, as we say, there wasn't really too much happening in our area on Monday. I was in work on Monday, and the boss, he kind of heard that things were going to be bad, so we were all sent home. I think it was around 11 o'clock, half 10, 11 o'clock. So he was kind of, his duty of care to us, let's put it that way. He didn't want anything bad happening, so I went home and life continued on. We kind of battened down the hatches, and then the storm came and the storm went. Nothing really kind of major happened. Like there was nothing blew off the roof or out of the garden except for leaves off the trees. That was about it. A couple of trees in the area actually, some limbs came down. I think there was a tree in Kells came down, was blocking the road. Other than that, nothing really. It was kind of a non-event. The power did go, but sure, if the power didn't go, we'd be worried. I think they just switched it off, to be honest with you. But the power did go, and long-time listeners will know that we did last year. We kind of built, Alan and I built some solar generators. They're it's a battery with an inverter, and it's kind of charged up by solar. But you can also charge it with a battery charger if you like. But that came out of the shed, and it was on standby. And I have to say, when the power cut happened, it went into full swing, and I have to say we got a couple of hours. We could use the lights in the house because the lights were obviously LEDs. We were able to use the TV, and the kids were able to kind of be plonked in front of the TV and continue on watching cartoons or whatever, just to keep them pacified. Mother and father-in-law, they had a power outage too. They live fairly close to me, so they came around. We told them to come around, and they kind of sat down, and then there was coverage of the storm on a channel, one of these channels that will remain nameless. So we put that on, and they were watching that, and all the time my father-in-law was he had this bemused look in his face, and I said to him, I said, "Are you all right?" And he says, How does it work? I don't get it." I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Well, there's no power, but we're sitting here watching the telly, and the lights are on. I don't understand it." So I gave him a quick 101 on the solar generator, and he says, "Jesus, that's a great idea. Where can I buy one of them?" I said, "You can't. We have to make them." But he thought it was a fantastic idea. I think that the power went in around maybe, I think was it 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, somewhere around there. By 7 o'clock in the evening, because of all the bits and pieces that had been on, the generator was kind of starting to discharge. So I made the executive decision to pull the plug. Now that was the big fella now.
Okay.
And then I pulled out the small one, and we just had a couple of, we had a lamp, your LED standard lamp in the sitting room. We had that on that, and that just kept us going well into the evening. But I think it was about 9:30, 9:45, power came back on. So but I have to say it was how I can't even describe, but that kind of feeling when no one else has power.
It's called being smug.
Is that what it is?
Yes. And I was smug. Well, because we put a lot of time and effort and learned and developed and made these units, and the tutorials are on YouTube, and if anybody wants to know how to do it, we're more than happy to help you. But it's called being smug. Well,
okay, there was an air of smugness. When I went out, I walked out onto the road later on, and every house was in pitch black, with candles in the window. You could see the flicker of candles, and then when you kind of walk down the road and look back, you could see my house with the lights on.
Lit up like a runway,
like
was it?
a Christmas tree it was. But I have to say, it was, you know what, as you say, and it's true, it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. So that kind of, it got us out of a hole, and I have to say, every house should have one. They really are kind of, in a situation, power down situation, it's absolutely fantastic that, we can do this and we can have this technology. So yeah, that kind of got me over the hole. What else on the list is the flu vaccine. I was actually talking, my wife was talking to a lady yesterday, and no names will be mentioned, but my wife spoke to a lady yesterday we were at a taekwondo competition yesterday. My son does it, and she spoke with a lady whose daughter also does it. And she said that she may have to pull her daughter out of the taekwondo altogether because she has an issue which the doctors have said, the doctors are saying that it's evolving into fibromyalgia. And they're saying they're going to refer her on to different doctors, and she's going to be prodded and poked and probably stuck full of needles and probably end up on medication and all this sort of stuff. But the child is in a lot of pain, and she can just about do her taekwondo, but she does be in a lot of pain and numbness in her extremities and her fingers. I think it's fingers and toes. So my wife just happened to be telling me about it, and I done a quick look up this morning on serapeptase, because we've mentioned serapeptase before, and if anyone remembers, a couple of weeks back I did say my mother-in-law had started to take serapeptase for arthritis, and I'm not going to say it cured the arthritis, but she was in pain, even though she was taking medication by her GP. Then she started taking the serrapeptase, and then she was pain-free. So we have actually recommended that this other lady go down to a health food shop and speak with a professional down there and maybe get her daughter on some serrapeptase, because anyone who's not aware of serrapeptase, check it out. There's a lot of benefits to this product. It's a natural product anyway. But of course the pharmaceutical companies and the doctors don't like it because it's obviously a health food type of thing. But anyway, there you go. I've rambled on enough. That's me done and dusted. My week in a nutshell.
Okay.
How's yours?
Very quick. Like Steve, I was smug too. I got everything up and running. We were watching TV, and I actually waited till it started getting dark. And my partner had never seen the inverter working before, so I hooked it up, switched it over on the changeover switch. Lights come on in the kitchen, living room, hall, and she was kind of going, "Wow, you mean we have full lights?" And I said, "Yeah, we have full lights." Yeah. Plus, I was monitoring the power, but then the actual power itself come back 10 minutes later. So for, that 10-minute period, we had, there's only lights on in the village was mine. Which is a good thing. Yeah. Okay, we want to get on and do the interview, so I'll quickly say this. We've upgraded the equipment wish list on the OYM website. Thanks to the listeners for all your donations. We've managed to keep paying the bills, got some equipment for project work, and got a few bits of equipment along the way that will help us with the launching of OYM TV. Studio costs are ongoing though, and we will, and so we help, to help us keep the wheels in motion. Donations, big or small, always a big help. Without donations, we can't survive, unfortunately, because myself and Steve can't really afford to keep things going. We tried, when we started OYM, we tried to not have any cost at all, but, at the end of the day, it's just not practical. There was too much hassle, and it's kind of substandard streams and websites and all that. So we had to go and pay the money, and it's an ongoing thing. So your help is much needed with donations to keep the wheels in motion. And thanks to the people who do donate on a regular basis, it really is much appreciated. But the funds go down quite quickly because you're paying regular costs. Excuse me. Okay, and so yeah, if you like to support us, the PayPal button is on the website. Just pop over there. A big thank you to everyone who does that. And the last thing on the list is Leo Varadkar, who's our Taoiseach, which is the Prime Minister for people outside of Ireland, posted up a video of all the great work that he's been doing, Jan. But all the comments that people posted were all people having to go at him, and they've obviously had enough of the government BS. A fair play to the people, and people are waking up. I couldn't believe the list of people and all the comments they made, and they were all with name calling and saying certain things. They all just had enough.
Yeah.
And they all can see, the crap, the BS that they're coming out with the government. So, excuse me. Fair play to the people waking up, and let's hope we get more of that and more support and for people to wake up. But I'm not going to go on. We have to get the interview in the bag. So without further ado, we're going to hand over to the pre-record of Judge Naidu, and we had a good chat with him, and we'll see you on the far side. Okay, what we'd like to do is bring in our guest, Judge Navin-Naidu, and we've asked the judge to come on. Yes, he's a real judge, and we've asked the judge to come on the show to actually talk to us about law, all different kinds of law, common law, constitutional law, sovereignty, and a lot of other things. Before we bring the judge in, Steve has a bio for the judge, and we're going to give you a bit of information about the judge before we get him in and start talking to him. Steve.
A highly controversial tribal and ecclesiastical lawyer for 47 years whose primary career aim has been to prove fraud as currently practiced by governments, especially involving indigenous people's rights. Singapore-born and is married with 3 children, lives in China. He has lived in the USA for 35 years and left in disgust.
Right, okay. Good evening, George. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. That kind of sums up my bio.
That kind of sums up everything for you. Excellent. Well, it's fantastic having you on the show. This is the first time we've had a judge actually on the show where we can talk about constitutional law, common law, sovereignty and everything else. Now, obviously, over here in Ireland, we have a constitution, and we have common law, and we have legislation. And one of the things that we're very big on over here, and we talk a lot of, is common law. And that seems to be obviously quite common in a number of countries around the world. Can you give us your understanding of common law and what you think? Does it apply to people? Should we be using it? Or what's your understanding of that?
Well, common law basically means judge-made law. As the great Judge Lord Denning once said, a judge is supposed to ride the unruly horse of public policy onto the side of justice. So what he was saying is, essentially, government makes the laws, Parliament that is, and then the executive enforces the law through the police power. And the judge is supposed to interpret the law. Now, that word interpret has got 1,000 connotations. Are you explaining the law, or are you interpreting the law? Because it's a loaded gun. When you interpret the law, you're bound to put a spin on legislation.
Okay.
So this is where judge-made law comes in, common law. Now, one of the most famous common law decisions ever made in the world was the great decision called Donoghue versus Stevenson in 1932 in good old England, where Lord Atkins said, if you do something that is reasonably foreseeable that it is going to affect somebody, your neighbor, then you must not do that act or perform some action. And then he goes on to say, who then is my neighbor? So now, in the law of torts, substantive law, Lord Atkins introduced the neighbor principle. Now, mind you, all over the Commonwealth, every judge, every lawyer, every law student, it's Donoghue versus Stevenson, the famous snail in the ginger ale bottle case. So common law, per se, has its good points if the judge is able to iron out the wrinkles in the fabric of the law. As Lord Denning said in Asher Estates, our job is to iron out the wrinkles in the law, meaning if legislation is ambiguous, we are not mind readers, because some judges like to think that they are interpreting or explaining the intention of Parliament. Well, that's a little bit of a song and dance, because you really can't tell.
But Judge, isn't that dangerous? If you're, as a judge, interpreting the law, then another judge beside you could interpret the law differently, and depending on your interpretation will depend what kind of sentence or what happens from there on in.
Yeah.
So that's very dangerous.
That is correct. It is. Up to a point. You see, Donoghue versus Stevenson and all the findings, Bristol Airplane versus Young, all these cases are groundbreaking in the sense that it really interpreted the law. But, having said that, there is a limit. You see, if you don't control judicial activism, which is what it is called when judges make law, which is the foundation and the creation and the establishment of common law, you have a problem, because a judge is not to act as the super legislature. His job is not to make, his job is to interpret the law. In this case, when I mean law, I mean legislation.
But that's still dangerous because over here in Ireland, we have judges who are obviously interpreting the law, and what's happening is, in a lot of cases, they're not actually applying the law because they believe themselves are the people who they think they create the law when they should be interpreting the law. And even then, with their interpretation, it's a lot of the time it's not going in what way the legislation should be.
No matter how you cut it, slice it, dice it, government, represented by the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary, they're all part of government. Now, you are not going to have government without the governed. So, what is the people? Where do the people go to the fountain? The fountain is justice. Law is made by government. You see, law is never made for the rights of the people. It's always thou shalt not do this, thou shalt not do that. You will be forbidden to do this, you are forbidden to... What damn rights does a human being have as a citizen or a denizen of any government? All the laws are made to protect government.
Yeah, well then obviously we need to be looking at jurisdiction then, because what jurisdiction do they have over us as sovereign people, say?
You see, way back when the Magna Carta was prepared in 1215, it established the rights of Englishmen. The American Constitution, the Bill of Rights, everything is extracted from the Magna Carta. So the Englishman's Bill of Rights was already established 800 years ago. And then we had Oliver Cromwell come in, establish Parliament, long Parliament, chop a head of a king here and there. Charles I, then came James, and then came, Elizabeth, then came all the Georges and Edwards and what have you. But at the end of the day, it is still government. What do the people have? The people have nothing by way of rights, and I include the United Kingdom as well. I mean, look at the situation in Ireland. Right? It wasn't politics, it was religion.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. I mean, you worship Christ through Mother Mary, and the other guy worships Christ directly. And so now the Catholic and the Protestant wants to think that is mighty superior to the Catholic. And you know you know the rest of what happened.
Yeah.
History and geography. You had the potato famine, you had all the corn laws, repeal of the corn laws by William Pitt the Younger, and then there was a mass emigration. I mean, where does it stop?
Well, I think, to be honest with you, Judge, I think people will query the potato famine. That was kind of more of a Holocaust if you look into the story of it. But we won't go down there because that's a different argument. But going back, let's kind of talk about legal and lawful, because we do talk about what the law dictates, but there is a difference between legal and lawful.
Yes, the word legal. One of the meanings of the word legal means going against God's law. It's very different from the word lawful, legitimate. You see, our laws come from Scripture. So every law, the criminal law, the civil law, it's all extracted from the Bible. If you really look at Leviticus, if you look at Deuteronomy, if you look at the Old Testament, most of the laws, the 10 Commandments, form the basis of our criminal law as we understand it in the Commonwealth. So, lawful is a very different word from legal, where the government plays God.
Yeah.
In that they've taken a scriptural premise and given it a governmental promise or a twist or a spin.
So that would be...
And that's where
that would be, so that for my understanding, and you know, I could be wrong, but my understanding is that legal means legislation and lawful means common law from the scriptures, from the Bible.
From the Bible, exactly. So the word legal is a loaded word. It has some undertones of government. And we don't want to use that term if we are talking about people's rights. Because I can tell you no government gives anybody any rights anymore, even if it's in the Constitution.
Well, you have...
look at the United States.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we're born with rights. What governments do is give privileges. This is the new thing, where they'll give a privilege, but we have fundamental rights. We're born with our rights. And one of the things that I was going to talk to you about, we might as well mention it now as we're talking about rights, is that if we can't tell somebody to do something. We can't control somebody else. I can't tell you to jump on a plane and fly over here to Ireland, right? Because I wouldn't have the right to do that, okay? So, if I can't tell you to do something, then how can we give the right away to the government for the government to tell us what we should be doing in our life?
Let me tell you how it all began.
Okay.
The day you're born, you are asked to get a birth certificate. That bloody birth certificate creates an implied contract with the government. You see? So now, what one can do is, you have no privileges and no rights. A right involves a claim. A claim involves an obligation. An obligation involves a duty, and a duty contemplates a liability. So when they give you a driver license, for example, they are creating a liability. I can prove it. They ask you to register the vehicle, and then they ask you to get a driver license, and after that, they tax the hell out of you by asking you to get insurance. So you have no rights, no privileges, my friend. All you have is your right to a liability.
Okay, so question...
Because your birth certificate.
Yeah. Okay, so let's question that. So let's see what happens. A driving license, right? So we are forced, right? We are forced to get a driving license, because if we don't have one and the police stop us, then that means that they will arrest us, or they will fine us, or they will use... maybe they'll get abusive with us or violent with us, you know, if it goes down that way. So we are forced against our will to do things.
Yeah, you see, here is the thing. Instead of talking about what the problem is, let's talk about how we can solve the problem. If you have a certificate of conception issued by your parents, which goes back 9 months before the day you were born, and if you claim your rights as a denizen and not as a citizen, they have no right to ask you to produce a driver license. Because who owns the title to, let's say, County Cork, Shannon? Who owns the land? The government cannot own the land because of your use carpion rights. Who are the first people in Ireland or in England before all the barbarians and the Vikings and all these people? Who were the original inhabitants, like the Native Americans in America? Because use carpion, the Latin word, which means ownership due to lengthened possession. So if you, as an Irishman, can claim your use carpion rights, now this is something that you can check in your local law library. This is not fantasy. This is how you tell government to mind its own business. Because you are not minding the government's business. So what damn difference, what damn business do they have to tell you to do this or that?
Okay.
Well, now, I'm not saying only one of you should. I'm not saying one of you should do that, or 10 of you. I should say millions of you should claim your use carpion rights as the son and daughter of the soil. You own Ireland.
Okay, Steve, you want to jump in there?
Who came across. Yeah.
I'm just wondering, Judge, I mean, this sounds very good, and I think we're both getting a little excited listening to what you're telling us, but this right, has anybody done it already, and have they been successful?
Yes. Yes. People are doing it in America. People are doing it in Spain. Most of the people that I'm talking about they come to my law classes that I hold online, and there are hundreds of people who listen to what I have to say, and I can back it up with law. Write this word down, USUCAPION, usucapion. Now, this is a common law doctrine practiced in England since time began. But you seldom hear that word, simply because government does not want every, Jill, Jane, and Joan, and Tom, Dick, and Harry to know what usucapion means.
So tell us
Because then you will be exercising...
Okay, tell us the process.
Tell us the what?
Tell us the process, Judge.
The first thing you do is you carry a certificate of conception, which I can prepare for you. I can send you the template. Now then you put a nice border around it, get your father and mother's name there, and let's say you're born 1st January 1950, you go back 9 months. So that'll be like March 10th, 1949. That is your date of conception. William Blackstone said the moment a fetus is alive, because an embryo has developed, there is life in the mother's body. Get yourself a certificate of conception issued by your parents. Second thing you do, and I'll send you a copy of that, you send a constructive notice to the government saying, thank you very much, but I am cancelling my subscription. I am no longer a citizen of your government. I'm a denizen of Ireland. And the third thing you do, you form your own people's parliament. Like-minded people. It's called a like-minded people's parliament. You form a parliament and you elect somebody as the head of parliament and you issue travel permits. Don't call it a driver license. The word license means a permission granted by the government to do something which would otherwise be unlawful and illegal. These are the three things you can do to be truly sovereign as a sovereign human being.
Now, obviously, Judge, you do I'm sure you've come across it where maybe the local police or the local government office would just kind of say, ignore that, because over here in Ireland, they are blatantly ignoring loads of legal and lawful stuff that people have been doing.
Hold on a minute. They may, when it comes to 10 or 20 people sending in their constructive notices to cancel the implied contract. But what if 100,000 of you started doing it? Look, the government has no power when people are awakened. One swallow does not a summer make. You need hundreds of thousands of people doing this, and then they will fear you. See, I am sick and tired about talking about the problem. I'm all about how do we solve the problem.
Fantastic.
Because that's what the government spends millions of dollars making movies, writing books, creating articles, magazines, journals, talking about what the damn problem is. I call it a weapon of mass distraction. They distract your focus, keep you blinded, and then you die. What have you left behind? What legacy have you left behind? Your bones. You haven't even done nothing for your kith and kin. So the only way you're going to give government a chance to genuflect, to get on its damn knees, is for 100,000, maybe 1 million people to turn around and say, enough is enough. Now let me give you an example. In America last year, 116 million people did not vote out of a voting age population of 235 million. Now, you've got to ask yourself, how many people in Ireland did not vote? All the people who don't vote, because they don't believe in government. So if you want to get this monkey off your back, get yourself a very slippery, poisonous back. Certificate of consumption.
Well, I'm glad you said that you're all about solutions, because so are we. We like solutions. We know what the problems are, but solutions are what we're looking for. Steve wants to jump in there.
Exactly.
Yeah, Judge, I've got a quick one for you.
Steve.
Yeah, jumping in, both feet. I like what you're saying. It's really empowering. Do you have a driving license, or do you have a permit? And if you've been stopped, what kind of scenario presents itself when a police officer?
I got myself an international driver's license issued by a tribal government. Okay. And when I travel around the world, they look at that and they say, is this valid? I said, well, look up the law. And usually they leave me alone. Okay. See, you've got to speak with authority.
Yeah.
You can't say, well, I paid $20 and some guy gave me this. No, you've got to turn around and say, it is more legal. What do you mean? It's lawful. So I have a right to travel here, because under the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Universal 1948 United Nations, under Section 12, subsection 1, Article 12, subsection 1, you're free to travel wherever you want to travel. Not just with your passport, but with your driver license. Well, the Native American tribal government can issue you a driver license or a travel permit, because you're traveling as a denizen. A denizen is a person who has been domiciled in a particular locality for thousands of years. Citizen is an idiot who has voted and looks up to the government for succor. That's the difference. And you'll never hear the word denizen, ever. They'll always say citizenship. They'll never use the word denizen.
Well, we looked into
D-E-N-I.
Yeah, we looked into the actual whole meaning of citizen, and it's supposed to be a contract between the people and the government, but the government don't follow up on the contract. It's, what they're supposed to do, they do not do. So the contract between the government and the people is null and void anyway. So there's no point, being a citizen, you're supposed to be protected by the government.
No, I know that. But you see, you need to tell the government that through a constructive notice. When you send me your email, I'll send you all these 3 documents and start giving it out to your people and tell them to stand up and be counted.
And what's the procedure?
Okay, let me answer that question.
Okay.
You send these documents to the office of the Attorney General, and you send it to the local police, and you write to the Prime Minister, Attorney General, and to the Chief Constable, or whatever you call the head of the police in your neighborhood. And you notify everybody. You see?
Yeah.
And then, when they get hundreds of thousands of these notices, they will start wondering what the devil is going on. You see, then you get the attention. Not 5, 10, 20 of you. They'll say, a couple of misfits. You need hundreds of thousands of people to make this work.
Okay. And
an orderly way.
Yeah. And what if they just kind of ignore that and just say, well, we're just throwing this in the bin, and if you do anything that is against our laws, we're going to arrest you?
Then that's okay. That's okay. You just said the answer. If they ignore your notices, you ignore them. How do you ignore them? You, the people, have to organize police power. What is the meaning of police power? The power to try somebody, and the power to punish. What makes you think only the government has that power? Whatever happened to your power? You see, the rights of Englishmen. You see, like, for example, every law student, judge, lawyer, law scholar, legal scholar, whatever, an Englishman's home is his castle, right?
Yeah.
You know that term, right?
Yeah.
If somebody breaks into your house, you have a right to kill him or maim him. You can never be charged for grievous bodily harm because it is your sanctuary. Now, what about your person? You see, the world today, all over the world, individual people who think they have rights, they have no rights until they organize police power. See, that's the key element, factor, to determine your true sovereignty.
I think the laws over here, unfortunately, the government laws over here in Ireland, is that if somebody breaks into your property, that you can only actually attack him with the same kind of weapons that he might have. So if he's a knife, you can only fight him with a knife. You can't turn around with a gun and shoot them, which is ridiculous, because on my understanding and the way I see it is that if anybody breaks into your house, they've lost all their rights, and then they take on board what is dished out by the homeowner.
Thank you.
And if that means that you kill him, then you kill him. That's it.
Now extrapolate your argument. Extrapolate your argument.
Okay, well, the argument is that
if the government, hold on, if the government, see, no, I'm trying to help you here.
Okay.
Likewise, if the government comes at you with their law, it's like breaking and entering into your home. When the government or the police come at you for not having a driver license, they are attacking your sanctity, your privacy, because you don't have a contract with the government. You have an implied contract which was made against your will.
Yeah.
It was made by your parents when they agreed to obtain a birth certificate so they can take the baby home. So you got to start thinking. We know what the problem is. What is the answer?
So
I'm not saying get a gun and a knife and go around. No, I'm not saying. I said form your own police power, like, for want of a better word, like a People's Alert Committee. That means there are always people around to make sure the coppers don't come and tyrannize you or terrorize you. This has to be done after you've notified the government and carry this document in your person or in your vehicle. I've notified the government. Here's my proof of mailing. Here it is. I've notified the Attorney General, and the common law says if somebody is silent, doesn't respond to my notice, silence is acquiescence. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So you're saying that... So with the birth cert idea, is that because it was our parents that did it and it was against our will, we didn't know about it, it was implied, the contract is null and void with the government anyway?
Yes. Because you are a minor, a child, you're a baby, you know?
Yeah. Steve, you want to ask a question?
Yeah, so without this letter or this notification, the one of consent, and without being a Denzian, then if we do have these pieces of paper, then we can essentially set up our own government and police ourselves. But without these, if we do try to do it without going through the proper channels, we're then considered vigilantes.
Well, what is the meaning of vigilante?
Somebody takes on the law themselves.
What is the meaning? No, you're being vigilant against undue attack. The word vigilante is like that word white man. I mean, are you really white? You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I mean, you're fair-skinned, right?
Yeah.
But people the world over says, oh, he's a white man. Oh, he's a black man. Oh, he's a red man. He's a Chinaman. But Chinaman is okay. But look at the word white man. I mean, are you really white if you're Caucasian? You're not white. You're fair-skinned. So the word vigilante has lost its flavor and fervor. You are a People's Alert Committee member. Yeah. The word vigilante has all kinds of bad connotations, unfavorable connotations. So why even use that word?
Yeah, there is a definition.
Alert and Yeah. You are being alert and agile to tyranny. Or you can call yourself the anti-tyranny unit.
Well, what they've
What's
done
wrong
is
with that?
what they've done is actually taken a word and then changed it and made it like, you know, like a bad word. But Steve has a definition there. Steve.
Yeah, vigilante, a member of a self-appointed group of citizens who undertake law enforcement in their community without legal authority, typically because the legal agencies are thought to be inadequate.
Okay, Naidu translation. A group of denizens who have decided to undertake law enforcement under lawful authority as the rights of Englishmen. See that difference?
Yeah.
The word citizen and the word legal puts a spin. It's called the legal construct. Laws are written in such a way that it favors the government. And I just caught that word. Citizen and the word legal. So the word vigilante is government-made.
Yeah. Dave, again,
I can make similar. Why citizen? Why legal? Why not denizen? And why not lawful? Because don't you people look? The rights of the people is a given. Otherwise, why do you think there's government? Think about that for a while.
Yeah.
Without people, there is no need for government. Correct?
Yeah. Well, the government should be only there to administer. They should be there as an administration process only, not to be taking our rights away and not to be taking our money away from us.
My friends, in primitive society, there were no government. People looked after themselves, minded their own business, and once in a while smashed a skull with a bloody rock. But in primitive societies, there was no such thing as government. Government came into being after 1648, the Peace of Westphalia, when church and state separated. The kings and queens of Europe were sick and tired of kissing the Pope's ring. So they broke away. The government was smart. They went immediately into police power, law enforcement. The church went into banking. I'm talking about the Vatican. Because of the Vatican, you got the old lady of the Threadneedle Street, Lombard Street. You know, the central bank of England.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, without people, there's no government. So what if now, mind you, the people are more than the government, right? I mean, you're the Prime Minister. How many people work for the government? 1 million? 2 million? What's the population of Ireland?
It's about 4.5.
Okay, so 4.5 million people are governed by what? 500,000 people?
Yeah.
Isn't that a joke?
It is, yeah.
Shouldn't 4.5 million people be controlling 500,000 idiots? Think.
Yeah.
People power, my friends. That is the answer.
Yeah.
And anytime you talk to me, I'm a solution man. I don't want to talk about the problem. I know what the problem is.
Now, I will say, Judge, that in our forefathers, who, when we had the War of Independence over here in Ireland, when they originally put the Constitution together, they wrote in a procedure called direct democracy. And that basically meant that that gave people the power to decide that, i.e., if you didn't like your government representative, you could sack him. And if you didn't like certain things, you know, you could have referendums, and people would get together, and it was a fantastic thing that they put in the Constitution, which gave the people the power. But as
you can revive it.
Well, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to get it back into our Constitution, because it was taken out purposely to take the power away from the people.
But you are more than the government. Numerically, you're superior. Numerically, you outnumber the enemy. You know the enemy's weakness. They need your vote. Think about this for a while. What if nobody in Ireland voted? People of the voting age. You will bring government to a standstill. It'll be an outlaw government, a scofflaw government. You see, then the people take over. And the people can appoint people they want as their superiors to run government. You don't need a career politician.
No.
You see?
The level of corruption over here in Ireland is phenomenal, and people, I personally, and I've said this on the show before, I don't vote. I deregistered, and I do not vote because I do not support any of these government parties that are actually in power at the moment, because they're all feathering their own nest. They don't really care about the people, and they're all in it for themselves, and there's no interest in supporting the people. So I don't vote for anybody, because voting is just an illusion to keep the peasants happy.
That's it. And you know what? The peasants need to get pleasantly organized to say no to government that is corrupt. It's time to revive the old democratic covenant. And that's what Thomas Jefferson did in his Declaration of Independence, 1776. When in the course of human affairs, it becomes necessary for certain people to disband themselves from a government, because a government is not delivering what it said it would deliver for the betterment, advancement, and well-being of the people. It is a people's right to sack that government and replace it with a people-friendly government. Because that bloody word democracy, what does it mean? Government of the people, by the people, for the people. But the way democratic principles or democratic ideals are practiced today is government by the government, for the government, of the government. The people are just like punctuation marks in a bloody in a sentence.
Yeah, we always say we have a democratic dictatorship or representative dictatorship. Democracy, as far as I'm concerned, is a misnomer. Basically, if you look at the word democracy and the way it is, it's all wrong, because again, you have the majority forcing the minority to do things that they don't want to do.
Look, the height of deception, the height of deceit, and the height of chicanery is government. A couple of people get together, let's build some roads, let's build some airports, some harbors, let's tax the people, let's create money, let's make paper money, let's get into the world trade and industry, into commerce, let's get the army behind us. Let's get the power to arrest behind us. Boom. So now you got, 400,000 idiots, 4.5 million people. For me, that's a huge joke. We got to set this right here.
Yeah.
This is no way to go on. We need to awaken the people to say, this is your God-given right.
Yeah. And it's trying to wake people up.
Most people are happy. Yeah, I know. You see, like your thing in your mind, OYM. Now, what if you don't have a mind? What is there to open? You see, so that's the danger with our people. They're given a few pubs here and there to go and have your black lagers and go and have your lagers or your pilsners, do your work, pay your taxes, pay the rent to your flat or pay the mortgage, pay the mortgage for your flat, for your house, and then look for health care, eat bloody food regulated by the government. Who eats organic food anymore? Everything is processed. By the time you're 55, you got health concerns. So it's cradle to grave. It's one of nothing but agony, suffering, trials, tribulation, and tests. That's bullshit, pardon my French. That's not what life is all about.
No, and totally. I'm trying to convince people that the politicians that are in government at the moment actually care about them. They're delusional if they actually think that the government actually cares about them, and trying to get them to wake up and shake them. Mind you, I always say, Judge, there's two kinds of people who want to get involved in politics. They're either naive and don't understand how politics work, or either they know how it works and you want to get their nose in the trough.
Well, that's why Mark Twain once said, once in a while, an innocent man is sent to the legislature. He said, because all these crooks are there to train you, to mold you, to shape you, to be a charlatan. You know, it's all about control. It's all about compromise. Not a wink.
So, George, we were just talking about the politicians being compromised and blackmailed, because obviously they want, the powers to be want to control everybody, and the best way to control people is to have something on them. Now, in your experience, have you come across this, and what have you found out, or what have you seen, or what have you heard?
Now, the one common denominator factor in any government all over the world is greed. Greed could be for power, for influence, or for just wealth, ill-gotten wealth. So they make a lot of deals on the side with the captains of industry, because government makes laws to protect business at the sufferance of the people. See, what people don't realize, again, the solution. The 4 pillars of any economy is land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship. The land has always been yours. It belonged to your ancestors, and it passed on to the denizens. Land. Without land, you can't build anything, you can't grow anything. So land is the prime asset. Second comes labor. All right, now, if people, the working class, can control their output, if they decide not to go to work, the captains of industry die. So people really control things, and they don't even know what they control.
Okay.
So the answer is with the people. The people need to alert and agile that they are in a controlling position. Forget unions and all of that. If people can come together and say no, the tyrants, calling themselves politicians and government, go slow, you bring the government to its knees. How do we get this message across people? You control land and labor. Capital and entrepreneurship means nothing without land and labor. Land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship. You control 2 of them.
Yeah,
without land and labor, capital and entrepreneurship means nothing.
Okay, it's just we lost you there again.
The people, the working class, they control land and labor, the 2 most important pillars of the economy. If you control land and labor, capital and entrepreneurship is impotent without land and labor.
Okay.
So the working man and working woman, they have the upper hand. Why aren't they using their right, their God-given right to control government? Why are you allowing government to control you?
Well, as you know, people
have always battled.
You know, George, people are dumbed down, and also we have a fluoridated society. There's only 8 countries in the world that fluoridate, and Ireland is one of them, and fluoride has its own effects on people, and, you know, processed foods, taking our energy, can't be bothered, apathy kicks in, you know, all the list is there, and people not being awake. And other people being in there. Over here we called it a DJ called it being an NIMBY, which is not in my backyard. And as long as people aren't directly affected, they're not bothered, they won't get involved. And this is the problem we have, so it's a major issue.
But how do we turn this around and let the people know what power they really have?
Well, that's the $64,000 question. How can we get people active? How can we get them to realise that they're all in it and they're all going to be affected by it if they don't stand up and do something?
Well, I'm sure like-minded people can start with a particular measure being put in place.
Yeah, I think
we need to get the people. We need to get the people informed.
Yeah. Well, that's what we are doing.
If they don't want to do anything about it, then there's really nothing.
Exactly.
Good.
And that's what we're trying to do at the moment, George, is trying to, with the radio show and events that we talk at and other outlets using social media, what we try and do is wake people up. But you know the old saying, you can bring a horse to water, but you can't force them to drink it. And I think it's just going to be an ongoing process.
No. Open your mind, use your mind, deploy your mind. Your mind. You know, there is a saying, no standing army can destroy an idea that has just been born.
Yeah.
So, if the people really want change, government is not the answer. They are never going to change. Like Lord Chesterfield said, power is of an encroaching nature. And Lord Acton said it beautifully. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So, you cannot look to government to make a difference. You need to look to people to make that difference.
Okay, and what about the Constitution? What about the Constitution that most countries have? Is there any power in that at all? Because it seems that over here in Ireland, although we have a Constitution, in the majority of cases it's just ignored, and they go ahead and do what they need to do.
Now, one way we can test this is to bring a people's claim, a couple of 100,000 people, filing a claim for violation of basic rights in one of the government courts. See what happens.
Okay.
100, 200,000 people. I'll be more than happy to help out. I mean, if people will come forward, not just 20, 30 people. You need a huge number to sue the government of Ireland for violation of human rights, fundamental liberties, under the Constitution. Cite and quote every part of the Constitution that they violated and tell them for every violation you're looking at £100 million.
Yeah. I think the idea... I think your ideas and solutions are good. Whether we would have the population or the backing from the people to do something like that, that would be the problem, because with only a population of, say, 4.5, 5 million people in Ireland, to try and get 100 or 200,000 people is going to be very difficult. Where if you lived in the UK, you've got 68 million people, that's a hell of a lot more. And you'd have more of a chance doing that. But I mean, it's a possibility. Maybe we will get there. Maybe there will be a time that in Ireland, that people will get together and there'll be enough people woken up in Ireland to actually get involved.
Well, the one way to do it is take a small newspaper advertisement and say, we want people to gather together. Give us a call, send us an email, because we are filing a class action lawsuit against the government for violation of our constitutional rights. How about that?
Yeah, I suppose there's no harm in trying that. It may work.
Yeah, I mean, look, well, the worst thing that can happen is 20 people respond, and then you don't have a dog in the fight.
Yeah.
Then we just don't do it, because that's just to test the market, you see. I mean, if you get 1,000, 5,000 people, now you're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
Now we got something going. See, this is what we're doing in the United States. We're waking up people, not just the Native Americans, but generally people.
Judge, it was brilliant having you on the show. We've reached that time. A big thank you for coming on the show. And what we'd like you to do is, I'm going to pass you over to Steve, and Steve's going to get all your contact details where people can find you and find out about you. And then obviously we'll aim to have a part 2 down the line. Steve, over to you.
Yeah, George, thanks very much for joining us on the interview. It's been great information. As Alan said, unfortunately the line was a little bit flaky, but we do have a lot of good information there. I think there's a lot of positive solutions that people can act on, and obviously with your help, if you do send us over the templates that you spoke of earlier, that will be absolutely fantastic. We do have a link to your website, scripturallaw.org, but are there any other channels where people can find out more information?
All my writings and all my audio tapes, and it's there on www.triballaw.tk. All my law class lessons, audios are at that website. And the constructive notice and everything that I talked about can be extracted from that website. Do you see that? Triballaw.tk?
Yeah, we have that in Skype. Yeah, that's great. Okay, brilliant, Judge. That's fantastic. Thanks for the information. Just stay with us there for a minute, and we're just going to go off to a musical break, and we'll be back after this.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMradio.com and peoplesinternetradio.com.
Oh, it's me. Yeah, we're back. That was Judge Naidu. Some great information there. Absolutely fantastic. We do apologise for the line quality, but as Alan did say before we played that pre-record, a lot of editing, heavily edited to kind of sort out the problems with it. There was a lot of dropouts and all. And fair play to Alan. Alan's editing skills, they are second to none.
There you go. Well, we do try, and it was very interesting. It would have been great to do another hour with Judge Naidu, but we can do a part 2. We'll aim to do a part 2 with him and find out more information about what he was talking about and anything that we can add to it. Now, our next guest is a chap called Brian McCarthy, and Brian is with the Anti-Eviction Taskforce. And before we bring Brian in, Steve's going to give us a breakdown of his bio.
Yes, Brian McCarthy from the Anti-Eviction Taskforce. The aim of the Anti-Eviction Taskforce, or AETF, is to bring the injustice of forced eviction into the mainstream and prevent any more homes being seized by financial institutions. It needs to be given a human face, and the consequences to those it affects need to be shown. We need to set up a network in every county in Ireland ready to come to the aid of anyone in the locality who is threatened with or in the process of being evicted. All individuals involved with forced removal from a home should be filmed, identified and shamed by their actions. Receivers, locksmiths, the sheriff and Gardai should be photographed and filmed by as many people as possible. They do not like this stuff being shown to others. This is a peaceful way to prevent forced removal from a home.
Brilliant stuff. Good evening, Brian. How are you doing?
I'm good, and how are things with you?
Yeah, not too bad at all. Brian, it's been a while since we had, you've been on the show before, and I know we had PJ on as well, talking about the Anti-Eviction Taskforce, and there's a hell of a lot going on at the moment, as we know. So you kick us off, Brian. Tell us what's been happening your end, because evictions are still going on, sheriffs are still turning up, people are struggling. We all know that. We see it on a daily basis and we hear about it and we try and do what we can our end, but what's happening your end?
We're extremely busy. We just can't cope with the amount of people contacting us. It starts out mostly as kind of they're in an emotionally bad place after getting letters from the bank or threats of court. So there's hundreds contacting us at the moment because it really has become epidemic, the same as the housing and the homeless crisis. Evictions are at epidemic stage. There's been a lot of game changers lately. In that, in one case, we saw that the police were helping the asset management team before the execution order took place. So you have to wonder, how are the guards involved so early when it's a civil matter? The type of security they're using has changed. Their surveillance on kind of people, we say, who are trying to help others as they come under pressure. They're kind of identifying people, and those people are feeling a bit of pressure from the guards the minute that they even enter the town, not to mind going to someone who's under threat from eviction. They are doing it kind of more behind closed doors now, or in the dark of night, in the middle of the day. in that they're going there when they know the people aren't at home, and many are coming home in the evening, children from school, and locked out of their houses.
That's it. It's incredible. And something that you said there is quite important. Debt is a civil matter. Why are the guards getting involved?
For me, they just don't understand it. Like, we go to court often as well, and we struggle. You know, if we feel that the county register is doing something completely out of the way, we will try and speak up about it. If it's absolutely contrary to the law, but like, I go up to the High Court regular. There's no winning cases up there, despite what's in any of their defence that they actually do have. They're in there on the summary summons. But the guards just don't seem to understand it. It's probably just a line coming down from the top. The guards are hired to go out and do these execution orders, which is fairly clear in the acts and the statutes that someone gets paid for this job. The guards themselves don't get paid for it, but maybe the statutory corporation, the Garda Síochána Corporation, they're getting paid maybe per hour to go out here, the same as matches or concerts or so then it's like everything else that's going on in the country. The money overrides everything else, and they shouldn't be involved at this stage at all. Like, they're there to keep the peace, and that's it. Like, everything that we do, we try and do it in a peaceful manner. So we have to continue to do that, and we'll continue to do that.
Well, fair play to you, Brian, for doing it, and the guys there in the Anti-Eviction Taskforce. Now, something that I just want to clarify for people tuning in, especially our international listeners. It's an article that I put up on my Facebook page during the week regarding the tracker mortgages. Now, tracker mortgages, and this caused a lot of the problems. A lot of people lost their homes and they committed suicide, physical and emotional, suffered physically and emotionally from what the banks did. And what the banks did was wrong. And what happened was that people who had tracker mortgages came off or were taken off the actual tracker mortgages by the banks, which meant that the interest rate went up on their mortgage from tracker to variable, because a tracker mortgage is set. It follows the interest rate. It's 1% above the European Central Bank, but it's also capped as well at a certain percentage. So when you come off your fixed rate and go into variable, the interest rate goes up. Now, in post 2008, after the crash, banks wanted to get some business. They wanted to get their hands on cash, on business. And so basically what they did, people were concerned that because the house prices were so high at the time running up to the crash around 2006, before the crash, because the property prices were so high, the bank said, right, we're going to give you a tracker mortgage, and that way that, you know, if the interest does go up to 15% or whatever, where it did in the 80s, we're going to cap your mortgage, so it won't go beyond that. So the banks start giving out these tracker mortgages before the crash. After the crash, and now the banks realised that, oh my God, we're losing money here. And to give you an example, if somebody had a tracker mortgage, say they had a 25-year mortgage and there was £200,000 house, with a tracker mortgage they'd be paying €750, but with a variable rate mortgage they'd be paying 1,100. And that's the difference. And the banks are losing now, and they realise that they're losing now, and it was costing them money, and that's why they did what they did. And they did it without actually contacting the people. And so a lot of people lost their property because their mortgage payments went from a manageable amount, or just about, up to an amount that was just beyond their budget. And this is one of the causes of the problems that happen, not just people losing their jobs, but because the interest rate changed. Now, that's blood on the banks, really, because people have committed suicide and so many problems because of what they did. And of course, during the week, I don't know whether people seen it, but the central bank said, you're on your own, we're not getting involved. Which is unbelievable for that to happen. So what you're saying, Brian, with the Anti-Eviction Taskforce and all the evictions, some of them cases, I'm sure, are related to the tracker mortgages.
I was delighted to see the scandal come about tracker mortgages because there's a lot of ins and outs in it, and it's up to around 13,000 at the moment. That's only the tip of the iceberg. I think what people have seen mostly in the last few weeks is that the Central Bank of Ireland at all costs are going to cover up what happened below. They may give out fines and things like that which benefits them, but they control the whole system in the first place. Them and Bank of Ireland are two of the worst culprits in all of this since the beginning for me. Now, the other side of it is that there's far more variable rate mortgages, and we are examining those, and there's other groups that do examine those. And a huge percentage of the variable rate mortgages are coming back way overcharged, and most banks across the board are at it. The bailed out ones are all at it. The ones with the bigger amount of mortgages are kind of doing it in smaller percentages, but at it, none the same. And then different pretend banks, is all I can call them, that have come in here in the last 20 years or so. They're at it as well, manipulating the ECB rate that you agreed and manipulating your variable rate. I've had my own mortgage forensically examined, and it's outrageous, and it started in the first 2 weeks of the original loan offer. EBS are just unbelievable across the board, what has been seen in those mortgages when they've been forensically examined. There's people, you can't do class action at this point in time in Ireland, but there is groups together there around the country with the different banks and examining all the different factors from the original contract, which is completely flawed, in my opinion, in almost everyone's case. What you were promised wasn't what you were getting as a consumer. So they are getting together different one-star mortgages, KBC, and trying to put together groups so that they can take something similar to a class action down the road. Now, doing that in Ireland again, you're under serious pressure as people going into the High Court or Court of Appeal daily are seeing. They're just, no matter what we bring up, and there's lads here now that have spent 7 and 8 years studying this and what's wrong in the courts. And it's the same. They're just protecting the banks at every twist and turn. It's you're going out playing a match every day and getting hammered, and you have to get up the following morning and do exactly the same thing again over and over, because there is no justice for the ordinary man in the street in Ireland, and won't be until there's kind of grassroots movements, which we are trying to promote currently. There are evictions going on. 1 in 3 across the board are in trouble in the country, and nothing being done about it. Aided and abetted by the crowd in the Crown Rock. For me, they don't even want to know what the problems that are going on the ground are.
It's unbelievable, and this started off from the article I read anyway. It was permanent TSB, where a couple brought permanent TSB to court, and then the central bank said, well, if you've done this, then maybe the other banks have done it as well, and then that opened a can of worms. And it's unbelievable, Steve. Imagine a couple who've been evicted from the homes, and then you find out that you did nothing wrong, it was all the bank's fault.
Yeah, and as you said earlier, what if that had happened and someone had committed suicide? Life had been lost because of this.
Can you? And not we, because we don't, but people still vote for these idiots in the Dáil, these politicians. I just cannot believe this day and age, people, with everything that's going on, people are still voting for these parties. It just amazes me, the stupidity. It really is. If you're voting for these parties, you don't understand politics. Unless, of course, you have your nose in the trough and you're getting some kickback. That's the only reason I think people would vote for a party. Or there's a reason why you're climbing the ladder because you want to get your nose in the trough. There's no other reason. I don't know, Brian. Is there a reason you know of?
Well, a huge percentage of them are landlords. They're not going to be the solution to our problems. We need to stop playing their games. We need to start boycotting the courts. Like if they're just going to find us guilty non-stop, what's the point of going in there? We should be boycotting that mess. The same thing with the TDs and the law. We should be just setting up grassroots movements. Like most of the people I meet daily, are dealing with civil matters, and most of them go about their life trying to do no harm, and that's kind of a better place to go than people who are supposed to be there for your interest doing you harm morning, noon and night. So we really need to start growing on the ground and putting people together. We're trying to raise at the moment awareness of what's going on with evictions, and we are doing a meeting in Cork there now, and probably the 2nd of November, because the mainstream media has covered all this up and no one knows what's going on. This is a sore point for the last 4 or 5 generations evictions. We were up in Kilrush there recently passing through it, and a museum of rural Ireland, and the old eviction 3-pronged telegraph pole style yoke there with the thing for battering in the door outside this museum on the street, and like evictions going on daily up around there. Like Tommy Collins one 2 years ago it started there on the 25th of October. Then you had what happened in May 2016 with the guards coming into balaclavas. That's still ongoing. Like GSOC have it, no progress being made. Tommy's still in the house, happy out. We boycotted the court with it on the basis that they had no jurisdiction in the first place. And we're sticking by that as of now. I've no doubt that the system is going to try and find a way around that, regardless of the illegality and unlawful things that have happened in that paperwork from first instance right through to today. But make no bones about it, we're up against it. And the only thing that will change it is communities coming together and saying, here, no, none of this is done in accordance with the law. We're not having any of it. It's a civil matter. There's no need for the guards to be there, but we're not granting any access unless this was done in accordance with the law, which in any case that we've seen to date, it's not even remotely close to done in accordance with the law.
Oh yeah, see, it's the problem as well, people's pride. I was speaking to a lady I know and her husband, who I know well, they're Polish, and we were talking about the same thing, about people getting together and doing stuff, and she said but people's pride, they don't want to admit that they're struggling, and you see them in the, as my granny used to say, and I do have relatives tuning into the show, fur coat and no knickers. It's a famous saying over here. I don't know whether you heard that one, have you?
Ah, yeah. I think everyone knows that one.
Yeah. Well, it's a kind of Irish.
It is.
Irish saying, fur coat and no knickers, and that just means that they're driving around in their new car, showing the new car off to everybody, just for our international listeners. But if you go into the house, they've no furniture and no heating and no food or whatever, just to kind of keep up with the neighbours, keep up with the Joneses. And when people start, when they stop doing that and realise that we're all in it together and a change needs to happen, then something will happen. But they just won't accept. A lot of people just won't accept it, or they'll just have the NIMBY approach, which is, I'm okay, Jack, not in my backyard. But it's all going to come to us. It's going to affect everybody because there's so much going on, not just on a local scale or a national scale, but on a global scale. It's affecting everybody. So something needs to be done.
But what people don't seem to realise is, we've become so conditioned over the years that we believe that the government run everything, and they are the leaders, and we kind of have to do what they say. What people have forgotten, it's been probably just beaten out of us, is that we are the power. And people say, "Oh, we the people." I mean, as the judge said as well. I mean, before there was ever a government on this land or any land, Well, the first people there could claim ownership, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. And remember,
the Irish people own the land. The government don't own the land.
And remember, the government don't have money. They have air money, right? They don't have money. They have air money. And they're supposed to be servants and doing what we tell them to do, not the other way around, and not taking away our freedoms, which seems to be happening. Do you want to comment on that, Brian?
Well, the government has loans that are more insecure than the loans we have. And the only way that they can make any semblance of paying them back is to turn the people into slaves. Like going back to the type of houses that we're going into daily with Anti-Eviction Taskforce, is like a mom, a dad, or a broken family with a number of kids that can't afford to put food up on the table, that's trying to pay a ridiculous corrupt bank to the best of their ability. The media are the only one who kind of put this spell out of strategic defaulters and stuff. Most people that I'm dealing with are trying to pay to the best of their ability. They're absolutely broken, the people that we're seeing. You know, like the emotional view when we meet a lot of these people first would absolutely devastate most people. Like our crew are lucky enough they've done kind of different safe courses and things to deal with depression, because that's the road you have to cross first when you go into any new house or you're talking to someone new on the phone. So like I can see how those people wouldn't be able to rise up and come out on the street, like, but we kind of work as that they're sowing a seed all the time, and you're trying to give them a little leg up and empower them a little bit first to deal with, you know, the major problem which is in the houses, to maybe feed the children. You know, they feed poor, the school is after introducing newer feeds now again, and then they can't pay them, and, you know, they feed their kids are ostracized because of that. So you're creating a whole stigma. You know, the system is loaded against us, but there are plenty of solutions there. You know, like you see things going on in the storm there, creating fear. But people were very resourceful over the few days there when they were without power and stuff. And, you know, all that, we're feeding the whole consumerism and the system. They're terrorists, in my opinion, in what they've done to the people of this country. And we're feeding them every day, and they're using that then to beat us down with, basically.
Yeah, well, the people you're dealing with, and I'm making, this is something that Steve read out earlier regarding RTE, right? This is the kind of the level of ignorance you're dealing with. And they were talking about whether we should keep RTE or not. I don't know whether you heard us talking about it earlier, Brian. And one of the people that were interviewed said, Dubliner, said he was over the age where he had to pay for the TV licence, but defended RTE. Why get rid of it? It's their station, and I'd miss the Angeles without it. This is the kind of ignorant attitude. You're dealing with people who just don't get it. They don't get it, they don't understand it, they have a few quid in their pocket, they survive, so sod everybody else. And this is what you're up against.
Yeah, you're always going to have that mentality here in Ireland. Like, my own friends thought I lost the class 6 or 7 years ago when I started on with all this. Like, and, you know, I'm still at it here 7 years later, as I know many other good people are. And all we need is just, like, things will change. Change is the only constant there for me. And, like, all these in the system are compromised now at this moment of time. The truth is coming out at a desperate rate in the courts. You know, for us there now, there's 40,000 civil bills in there that are invalid. The paperwork has gone in about the Court Act, missing from that. It will show in time that we've been deceived. And that's the, you know, whatever else about court, if you can just leave in good paperwork and leave it at that, you're leaving it on the record there. So there will show in time we're right. Same there, you know, with the government, you know, they're cut out constantly telling lies about housing and what they're doing and stuff. And sure, people are online now and not bothered with watching things like RT, so they're getting the real information for themselves, what actually is going on with the housing and the homeless crisis. You know, if you look at the figures in the central banks, the TDs are looking at the same figures as those, like, they're there themselves. There's a local TD in my area in Kerry, bought a house at Nod Saps Action, has it rented out and is abusing the HAP scheme here in Kerry. So I presume that other landlords, TDs around the country are abusing the HAP scheme in their county. So, you know, the taxpayers have been robbed left, right and centre. But you said a bit earlier there, they are waking up to it, slowly but surely, like, but they must start to wake up to what's under threat here, whether you're renting or have a mortgage, like, that roof over your head is under savage pressure, by a system that wants to make everyone tenants and a number of people, homeless. And that is an agenda that they're successfully subjecting the people to, for the last 10 years amidst this cover of the banking crisis. You know, I'm horrified when I walk around Dublin there now, like, it's just, like, that has gone on in Ireland. It relates to a film I saw a good few years ago, The Pursuit of Happiness. And, like, that's what it's like in Dublin now, people clambering for one-star accommodation at night. And, like, we're a poor society if we're going to accept this. Like, you know, I'm grand that the hungry belly doesn't think of the empty belly, like, but they really need to start waking up and opening their eyes to what's going on, because there'll be nothing left there for their children or grandchildren. The way things are going, just big cages around counties and slaves going to work today to fund the system and have no life. Like, you know, you hear the thing jobs all the time. We hear very little about quality of life, and like, if you're in debt there and the letters are coming in the door, like, that will break your life. You know, the pressure they put on you is just unbelievable, and they're often informed that the person is dealing with health and wellness issues, and they'll become worse with the letters when they find that out. Like.
Yeah, no, I know it's pretty bad, and well, the good news, I suppose, is that the truth is coming out. It's being revealed. We were told that, and we mentioned it before on the show, that people are turning around and saying, "Oh, the war's getting worse." No, the war's not getting worse. It's just all the stuff that people didn't know about is now coming to the surface. And this is the same in Ireland. The same with the politicians, with the education system. I mean, again, I refer to the Leo Varadkar, you know, video that he put up. And people, nobody had a good word to say, and they slagged them off no end. And the same with RTE, 92% of people said get rid of it. I mean, that says to me that a lot of people are beginning to wake up and realise that enough is enough. And I think we will get to a stage where maybe we will have the angry Irishman that will say enough is enough, and something will be done. And I think it is. I think it's happening. It'll take a bit more time, I think, but it is happening.
Yeah, they'd want to be, you know, like them bankers. Like, not your lad that's down at the counter, or the lady who's down at the counter of the bank. Like, they're clueless to really what is going on at a higher level, and the control levels outside of the country. But the shadow bankers, they badly want to be every one of them jailed fairly lively, and the regulator there should be put under pressure. You know, they're politically appointed, so the ones who help to politically aid and abet their game, arrest a few of those up the top of the tree, and it might put a small bit of manners on the crowd down the line. Like Michael Noonan, Brian Lenihan, Brian Cowan, go back through all the ministers for finance that we've had, go back through all the Taoiseachs, who most of were legals if you look back in history. How are we in such trouble in this country? We're in trouble because of legalese, imaginary borders, the enslavement of people, the theft of our resources. You can go on and on. You know, a simple thing like the bog even put under pressure because there's a few people happy to go to the bog. Like, every way of life, they're trying to remove the young Irish out and the indigenous, so that there's no spirit left in the country. Now that for me will never happen because an awful lot of Irish people kind of think in circles and stuff, and are fairly resilient. And, you know, again, the good people that I've met around the country here that are good at heart, and the amount of favours they do for people, they do without any money being involved. There's kind of a community project going next Saturday and Sunday and the bank holiday weekend where, you know, a family, their cottage needs to be done up and there's 10 or 15 lads going down there to straighten up that cottage before the winter comes in. So there is good things going on around the place, but we really need to build in the communities. And like the only way that can happen is if people are, you know, brave and they say, right, look, come on, we'll have a meeting here on the Monday night every 2 weeks or something. And, you know, label it whatever way you like, but it has to do with kind of current issues here in Ireland, housing, homeless, evictions, health, whatever, and try and grow away at grassroots. Like in my own area there now, one in Killarney, maybe the next one in Tralee in 2 weeks' time, one in Listowel 2 weeks after that, and try and kind of unite up in the county the people who would be into having solutions for everything that's going on. Like the debt is a huge problem that can never be paid back, and we want to end that fallacy fairly lively and stuff, and basically start from scratch with the national debt. And then on a one-to-one basis with what's going on in the country. You've 350,000 empty houses all over the island of Ireland. Yes, we have a housing crisis. Wanting to put their own contractors back in work to build new houses. You know, that's not a solution. Like, there's empty houses lying idle everywhere. And I see a family have to move into kind of a grandparents' cottage there not so long ago because they had nowhere to live. Like, and like I'd be of the opinion there, if it was good enough for them, it's good enough for me. Like,
Yeah.
So like put in task forces there off, or there's plenty of building lads on the dole. Improve what they get per week there, not the extra €50 that Jobs Bridge or Scam Bridge, the 17 of them created little entities to massage the job figures, but give lads an extra 200 or 300 quid a week there to put in, you know, a good shift in the week and regenerate these houses and move people in and come to common sense agreement instead of capital gains that, you know, the family's forced to leave that house idle and sit there, rather than bring it back into the community. Give the people who move into the house a nice deal that, you know, if they keep it in good nick, do up the garden, whatever else, that, you know, it all plays in their favour, and don't have everything about money related, have it some semblance towards energy related.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, Brian, we're going to have to leave it there. We have a few things to talk about before the end of the show as well. Thanks a lot for coming on. It's much appreciated, sharing. I know we could probably spend a couple of hours talking about what's going on because there is so much going on. You mentioned about meetings. Tomorrow night there is a Land League meeting going on in RD. I'm hoping to try and get over there if I can and meet up with everybody. It's been a long time since I attended a Land League meeting. So fingers crossed, if I can get over, I'll pop over and say hello to everybody and just have a chat and see what's going on there. But Brian, thanks again for coming on. I'm going to pass you off to Steve. Steve's going to get all your contact details and all your links on where people can find out about the Anti-Eviction Taskforce. Steve.
Yeah, Brian, great information. Sorry we only had a short time with you. Well, I know we could have went on, as you said before we come on live. We could do a couple of hours on this subject. But if people want to find out more information about the Anti-Eviction Taskforce, can you just tell them where they can get that information, please?
Yeah, you can go on Facebook. There's the Anti-Eviction Taskforce main page. They can contact dmhkaet@gmail.com. And if you send in a private message there, we'll get back to you. One of the lads or the ladies involved will get back to you.
Brilliant stuff. Okay, Brian, that's fantastic. Just stay with us there for a minute, Brian. We're just going to go off to a musical break and we'll be back after this.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMradio.com and peoplesinternetradio.com.
Yeah, seemingly we're having a Kate Bush tribute. A lot of Kate Bush songs. I think Alan got a new album of Kate Bush. Running up that hill, I suppose it is an uphill struggle. With everything that's going on in this world, in this life, it's an uphill struggle, a constant battle of wits, I suppose. Yeah, good information there from Brian, the Anti-Eviction Taskforce. As he said, you can find him on Facebook. Just go to a search engine, type in AETF or Anti-Eviction Taskforce, or you will find them on there.
Yeah, good bunch of guys doing great work, and it'd be great if more and more people got together and start getting local groups together. And you know, going down and saying to your local politician, what the hell are you doing for us? What are you doing? Show us what you're doing. You have this big salary, and you're in there for 5 years. What have you done in the years that you've been in? You know, and I mean, Damien English is the one that we have here in County Meath, and he spent €300,000 on refurbishing a theatre and not helping the people who are being evicted or the homeless. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, I'm sure if you did a survey and asked people, where would you like that money to go? To help people being evicted and the homeless, or to refurbishment? I'm sure they'd probably say to help the homeless and to help people that are being evicted.
Well, I suppose it depends who you ask, really, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, I suppose, yeah.
The NIMBYs, you know. Exactly.
Just a couple of things before we finish up. There was a video going around of Donald Trump being interviewed, and standing beside him, allegedly, was Melania, his wife. But to be honest with you, it's so fake. She's obviously a stand-in. I don't know whether you've seen the videos. I know you've been busy, Steve. But
no, I haven't.
If you go over to the OYM supporters group, I'll put the video in there. You can see it. But if you go to YouTube, you'll see it there anyway. So they're obviously using clones or using doubles, maybe for security reasons, I don't know. And the other thing, and I've seen it mentioned on the chat, about JFK files. Donald Trump is talking about releasing the JFK files, 3,000 of them or something like that. Now, that's great, as long as there's no big black lines going through them or having the words redacted on them.
Yeah.
So you don't know anything, and they'll say, oh, it's national security. That's their normal excuse, national security. So we'll see what happens when that happens. The other little bit of news that we have, good news actually, on a website called troab.com, and they said that the world's first bionic kidney is all set to replace dialysis in just 2 years. Now that's good news, because there's a lot of people on kidney dialysis machines.
That's a step in the right direction. That's a good use of technology.
Do you want to read it out there?
Oh, shit. Oh, where is it? Yes, okay. I thought you was giving me the wrong page. Yeah, I see it there now. Yeah, it says the troab.com, the world's first bionic kidney is set to replace dialysis in just 2 years. The world's first bionic kidney can be inserted in a body by a common surgical procedure, and it has proved to work efficiently. It is now proving to be the perfect replacement for a damaged kidney. The bionic kidney consists of several microchips, which are moved by the heart. The bionic kidney also filters out toxins from the blood in the same way a normal kidney would. To me, I think that's a great use for technology. It really is. When you have like people using technology for warfare, well, that's misusing it. You know, but that's something good.
Okay, now here's the counter argument.
How much is it going to cost?
I'm just going to say the word transhumanism.
Oh, that's where we're going.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, look.
The bionic man.
Yeah.
We had it in the 70s.
Well, I don't think he had a bionic kidney.
Yeah, no, but the whole idea of transhumanism, bionic man, bionic woman, turning into robots and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, look, we all know we have technology on the outside. You know, there was technology, and then technology became wearable, so it was now wearable technology, and the next step is implantable technology. Okay, so people I actually knew a chap who had a dodgy kidney, and he was on dialysis, and once a week he had to go to a hospital, sit there for several hours, have his blood drained, filtered and pumped back in, and it was an inconvenience. Something like this, it is good, but okay, I mean, where does it stop? If someone someone has a kidney, grand, and then if someone else has a dodgy heart, they get a bionic heart. I mean, look, if it was one of another argument is if it was one of your children, and you knew they were going to die, unless they had the operation.
Yeah, you'd do it. I know.
Of course you would.
You'd do it. Just regarding the guest next week, we don't have a guest booked in because we're waiting on some confirmation as to a particular guest that we're going to try and get on. If we don't get them on, then we'll actually pencil somebody else in. So just keep an eye on the schedule. And in the last few minutes, just a quick, is it or isn't it Mandela effect? Knight Rider. My closet Knight Rider fascination with the car, not the actor, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a question, and you tell me, do you remember Knight Rider? Yes?
Yeah.
Right,
I was a fan, yeah.
Okay, when Kit was talking and you're seeing the light flashing, right? Where was that located in the car?
It was located in the center console.
So you just
in the middle.
In the middle of the car. The middle of the car.
In the middle of the car.
Right. Well, if you go on to YouTube and you go and look at Kit's dash, his flashing light when he talks is actually just above the center of the steering wheel. Right?
What?
Yeah.
No.
So he's you have the steering wheel. Just pretend you have a steering wheel in your hand, and the Kit talkie thing is just in the center of the steering wheel on the dash. Now, you might think, well, that makes sense. Now, if you watch old Knight Rider TV series, every time he talks to Kit, he's always looking to his right.
There it is there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I always thought, and my partner was the same, that was like in the center console. As in, it was over to the right-hand side. Because every time Michael Knight was talking to Kit, he was always looking to the right. He wasn't looking ahead. He was always looking to the right. And as it's talking, you know, your head would naturally turn to a device, and, you know, and if you look at the TV series, he's always looking to the right. He's never looking straight ahead.
Yeah. But, I mean, I just found around the picture.
Yeah.
And in the picture, it is kind of to the right, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's not, but it's not, I thought it was really to the right. Like, as in the center console, in the console.
Yeah, but you have to... Now we're getting into something.
Yeah, I know, we're getting confused.
You see, look, but that wraps around, so, I mean, it doesn't kind of go... It wraps around.
I know, but I always, I just, from years ago watching Knight Rider, assumed, and when you see him looking, he's looking to the right-hand side. So, has there been, I don't know whether there has or not, has there been a Mandela effect? And, so if just for people who remember, it's like, the A-Team, the roof of the A-Team car, the van, is grey now. I always remember the roof of the A-Team van being all black with a red stripe. But now it's a black with a red stripe with a grey top. Again, I don't know.
It was all black. I remember it being all black.
Yeah, well, if you look at the A-Team now,
we've done this a couple of months back.
Black, red stripe, and a grey top. So, I don't know, did we talk about time zones and loops and everything else going on? So, there's obviously something going on very strange.
There is. You need to drink more beer, Chris says.
It's a bit of a mystery. Anyway, a big thank you for everybody tuning in tonight. Thanks a lot for tuning in. We would appreciate your help with keeping the wheels in motion for OYM. If you like what we do, please support us. That's all I'll say. And the PayPal buttons on the website. We'd love to do, we're trying to do it as cheap as possible, and try and do everything that we do, projects and all that stuff, as cheap as possible. But it does cost. So we'd appreciate any help. That'd be much appreciated. As I say, we don't know what the guest is. Keep an eye on the schedule for next week. But for myself anyway, Alan James, take it easy, stay safe, and if you have any news, obviously send us over information. By the way, we have a supporters group set up on Facebook, and it's going well. So if you are an OYM supporter, please contact us and we'll get you sorted. I know it's on Facebook, and some people don't like using Facebook, but it's necessary evil, but we are actually talking on it and swapping information and stuff like that. So come and join us if you can, and use Facebook against itself, against the man. So take care. We'll catch you next week. Bye bye.
Okay, yeah, in the last closing seconds, I'll just say Vin is up next on People's Internet Radio. Thanks to everybody who joined us this evening on the chat rooms, full of witty banter as usual. We'll do it again next week. So same time, same channel. In relation to the RT licence fee, if you're a TV licence payer and you think you're getting better entertainment here, feel free to send €168 over here. If you do, we'll play the Angelas at 6 o'clock. Anyway, stay tuned for Vin. He's up next on People's Internet Radio. We'll catch you again next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
Open your mind.